What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Jay coming at you with another Splatter Talk Cinema video. This video is the second video in my Celebrating the Final Girl series. The first video celebrated the quintessential final girl, Laurie Strode, in the Halloween series. If you by chance missed that video, just press the link on the screen now, plus I'll link it in the description below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the channel. Give us a like and a comment down below. What's your favorite final girl? With all that out of the way, let's get into the video. This video will be highlighting the first final girl I was introduced to as a child. The first horror series I watched as a child was A Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember going to the video store and renting this with my brother Rick. This movie scared the crap out of me due to the fact that everyone dreams, and I knew I had to go to bed after I watched it. This movie introduces us to Nancy Thompson, played by Heather Langenkamp from Just the 10 of Us. Nancy is the typical girl next door, having close friends, living in the suburbs of Springwood, a jock for a boyfriend, and a father being a police officer. It would seem as if Nancy would have nothing to worry about, except for her parents' dark secret. When Nancy was only 2 years old, there was a child murderer on the loose. His name was Frederick Charles Krueger, Freddy Krueger for short. He was responsible for killing over 20 children in the neighborhood. When he was finally apprehended, he faced trial and was released due to a technicality. Not satisfied with the decision, the parents of Elm Street and Springwood all band together, found Freddy, and burned him alive. It wasn't until 1981 when Nancy would be confronted by the Dream Demon. A Nightmare on Elm Street, directed by the late, great Wes Craven, would dig into his childhood past and some news articles to come up with this movie's plot. The movie would eventually start with a red herring, Tina Gray, having a nightmare, and the next day Tina would invite her friends over to her house for a sleepover. It was at the sleepover where Nancy would admit she too has had dreams of Freddy Krueger.
Fingernails? That's amazing you saying that. That made me remember the dream I had last night.
At the same sleepover, Tina would be brutally murdered in her sleep, with Rod Lane being accused of the heinous crime. With Nancy's father, Detective Donald Thompson, on the case, Nancy would be used in order to apprehend the suspect. Throughout the original film, Nancy goes from a vulnerable, scared 15-year-old to a fighter and a defender of her remaining friends. Due to the great storytelling, you can see the transformation throughout the film. The moment where her change was solidified is when she met Glenn on that beautiful white bridge. There, she shows him a book she is into entitled Booby Traps and Anti-Personnel Devices, informing Glenn that she is into survival.
Booby traps and improvised anti-personnel devices? Well, what are you reading that for?
I'm into survival.
It was at this point where we see she is now a fighter. Not only does Nancy have to defend herself from the monster in her dream, she also has to confront her parents, who know she knows something but refuse to place any stock in what she is saying. It wasn't until Marge Thompson, Nancy's mother, invited her into the basement and to the boiler room. There she shows Nancy the razor glove that had been used to intimidate her in her sleep. It was at this point where Nancy contacted her boyfriend, warning him not to fall asleep.
Oh, and meanwhile, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Unfortunately, Nancy is unable to save him and he is gruesomely killed in his bed. Calling her father, who was at the crime scene, she asks him to break the door down in exactly 20 minutes and he agrees. She then proceeds to wire her home with the booby traps within the book she told Glenn about. She then tucks her mother into bed as the Guardian roles reverse. Setting her alarm, she lays down to confront her dream stalker, saying one last prayer while also hearing her late boyfriend telling her what to do when she meets her antagonist.
What if they meet a monster in her dreams? Then what?
They turn their back on her, take away its energy, and it disappears.
Going down into the boiler room, she sees little mementos from her friends who had died previously. Freddy finally jumps out to kill her, but is led on a chase which ends in the front yard of 1428 Elm Street. With her wristwatch counting down to the alarm, Nancy takes a desperate leap of faith into the arms of Freddy using the tactics she discovered in the Katna Institute. She is able to pull Freddy out of her dream and into her reality. As Nancy runs from Freddy, she heroically plays a game of cat and mouse through the home, witnessing Freddy spring each trap she set for him previously. After setting Freddy ablaze, she goes to the front door to meet her father, and he has some uniformed officers to break in. During their entrance into the home, Freddy escapes his traps and leaves a trail of flames in the carpets that led to Marge's room. Bursting through the door, Nancy and her father witness a burning Freddy on top of Marge. Donald throws a blanket over her to extinguish the fire. When he pulls the cover away, the only one left is a charred corpse of Marge sinking into the bed. In a state of confusion, Donald is asked to leave the room, with Nancy the only person left for the final confrontation. The door shuts as the detective and his men leave. Nancy turns her back and walks toward the door. Freddy rises from the bed, making his way into the world. She then begins to downtalk and degrade Freddy, taking any psychological fear he had over her. After turning her back one last time, Freddy goes to kill her, but then disappears, proving Glenn's advice true. It was over. Walking out of the door to her room, she ends up outside on the front porch, joined by her mother. All of her friends pull up in a red Cadillac, which seems to be taken over by the essence of Freddy. Driving down the road, we are left with 3 girls dressed in white, jumping rope. As Marge watches Nancy leave, Freddy bursts through the window, leaving the fate of Nancy unknown. In the sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, our heroine, Nancy Thompson, is only present in diary entries. We are not told the fate of Nancy until A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. In the third installment of the franchise, New Line Cinema decided to bring back Wes Craven to the creative circle. He wrote a script for the movie that was very ambitious and took Freddy on another level, but losing the human quality in the original. According to executive producer and directors Rachel Talalay, it's like the kitchen sink thrown in. Along came Frank Darabont and Chuck Russell to rewrite the script into the movie we all love today. The general consensus was to bring back Heather Langenkamp to reprise her role as Nancy Thompson. In this movie, we see Nancy making a comeback as a new intern at the Western Hills Psychiatric Facility. Her first appearance was when Kristen was transferred to the facility for an apparent suicide. When Kristen began to recite the lyrics of the old 1-2 nursery rhyme, Nancy finishes it, connecting to Kristen on a deeper level. Throughout the movie, Nancy becomes the guardian of the Dream Warriors, going into the dreams of Kristen and the others. It wasn't until the last dream of the movie where we see Nancy's unexpected death at the hands of Freddy. Nancy did not go out without a fight, though. She continued to fight until her last breath. Freddy's greatest adversary had been killed. Even though Heather Langenkamp returned for Wes Craven's New Nightmare and embodied the same traits that landed her on this list, we cannot add her portrayal due to her playing herself in the film. The only time she was Nancy was in the dream, following her son into Freddy's hellish dreamscape. Throughout her run, Nancy Thompson witnessed her friends systematically killed, her mother killed right before her eyes, and losing her father, all by the hands of Freddy Krueger. Instead of becoming another statistic in the horrific kill count, Nancy musters up the courage to face her antagonist and defeat him. In Dream Warriors, she confronted her Dreamstalker once again in order to help teenagers who were in her shoes. She gave her life in order to save theirs. As we witnessed in the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake, it takes a fierce actress to play the role of Nancy Thompson, and if you don't give it your all, you leave the audience rooting for your death. In the original Nightmare on Elm Street, as well as Dream Warriors, we rooted for Heather Langenkamp's Nancy Thompson. We wanted to see her take care of Freddy once and for all, and it was heart-wrenching when we had to say goodbye. Heather's portrayal of Nancy establishes her as Freddy's greatest adversary. I don't know about you, but that's what I call a final girl. Thank you for tuning in to Splatter Talk Cinema Reviews videos celebrating the final girl. If there is a final girl you feel belongs in this video series, comment her name down below and I will make sure to cover her. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I implore you to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss anything Splatter Talk. Give us a like and let us know who your favorite final girl is in the comments. We have a bunch of commentaries and videos coming up, including our spoiler-filled review of Blumhouse's Halloween Ends. You won't want to miss that. With all that being said, this is your boy Jay, Splatter Talk Cinema Reviews. It's a wrap.